Hello and welcome to Embrace Automation, Empower Staff, and Reduce Frustration for Remote Clients. This webcast is brought to you by CPA Practice Advisor Magazine and SafeSend. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, I'd like to explain how CPE for this webcast works. The webcast qualifies for 1 credit of continuing professional education. If you plan to earn CPE for attending this session, you must stay with us for at least 50 minutes. In addition, we will display several polling questions during the webcast. You will need to record an answer to at least 3 of the questions, as this is our verification that you are still watching the webcast. You will receive an email by the end of the day today that contains a link to your CPE certificate, assuming you met the requirements for CPE. Please note that we can give CPE credit for multiple people watching on the same computer. So if there are others in your office who would like to attend this event, please have them join you now. And at the end of the event, we'll provide an opportunity for you to send us their email addresses. At any time, you can enter questions in the Ask a Question box provided on your screen, and our speaker will try to get to as many questions as possible during the presentation. Questions not answered during this webcast will be addressed by the speaker afterwards via email. The slides for this event are available for download, and they're in the Event Resources section on your screen. They just got loaded at the very beginning of this webcast, so if you don't see them there, you can click to refresh your screen. It won't take you away from the webinar. It'll just refresh the screen, and then you'll see those slides available for download in the Event Resources box. So today we are joined by Mike Kuffel, Product Enthusiast at SafeSend. That may be my favorite title I've ever seen. And now we are ready to begin.
All right, great. And do we have the slides showing now?
Yes, they should be available now.
All right, fantastic. So, folks, hi, welcome to the presentation today. Appreciate you taking the time to come and learn more about SafeSend and what we do with embracing automation. And that's going to be our conversation today. So we're going to talk about embracing automation, empowering your staff, and reducing client frustration in a remote environment. You know, as we all know, COVID really forced a lot of remote interactions with internal staff and with our clients. And, you know, clients liked that in certain respects, and staff did as well. And, you know, now we're kind of moving into the new normal of, you know, a life with a lot more digital interactions than what we had pre-COVID. Now today, as we go through things, we're going to go through the presentation. Like Gail said, it's going to be about 50 minutes. You're muted, but you've certainly got the right to chat questions. I'll get to those questions as I can. And then if I don't get to your question, we will be following up with you and getting you that answer to the questions you want. And then don't forget, of course, answer the polling questions to make sure that you get your CPE today. Now, today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk a little bit about SafeSend as a company. So if you're not familiar with us, you'll get to learn a little bit about us. I'm going to find out a little bit about you. And then, of course, we're going to talk about embracing automation, empowering your staff, reducing client frustration, and then we're going to actually look at the SafeSend suite as well. Now, one thing I will mention, there's a lot of slides in the slide deck. I probably will skip over a few slides today just for time, but when you download it, you'll have the full slide deck. So a lot of good information in there, including a few links as well. So first off, let's get to know you. So we'll do kind of a test here of the polling questions. Gail, can you go ahead and launch question number 1?
Sure. Our first question is, who is our audience today? And your options are tax, audit, bookkeeping, other, or all of the above. So please go ahead and choose the answer that best defines you. And you shouldn't have to think about this for very long. So we're going to move through this pretty quickly. So answer within 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if at any time you have any trouble answering a polling question, you can always post your answer in the Ask a Question box, and we'll record it there.
All right. So thank you very much, Gail. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for answering the questions. Looks like we've got a predominantly tax audience, which is what we would expect for something like this. But there's also, you know, a good representation of everything on that list as well. So, thank you all for attending today, and we hope you find this presentation useful. So appreciate you taking the time to fill that out. That's some good information about you. And one of the things that we can do for you today, 3 attendees will be receiving a SafeSend Returns Yeti tumbler. So, just as a thank you, we'll be doing a drawing, and 3 of you today will be notified by email that you won this SafeSend Yeti. Now, I got to learn a little bit about you and what you guys do. Here's a little bit about myself. So my name is Mike Kuffel. As Gail said, I'm a product enthusiast here at SafeSend, and that really means my role is to know SafeSend and answer questions and help firms as they're evaluating the product. Now, with my background, before I joined SafeSend, I spent nearly 20 years in tax software development with a major software developer. And then I also had my own tax practice for about a decade, spent a few years working as a tax accountant at a major university, and even had a period of time that I was a tax content writer for a trade magazine. So that's a little bit about me, kind of where I come from. But really today, this is what we're working on. We're working on helping firms in more ways. So we're going to focus today on SafeSend Returns. SafeSend Returns is a market leader in tax return workflow automation and client collaboration technology. It is the platform product of the SafeSend suite. So when we built the tax return automation and delivery system that is SafeSend Returns, as the products matured, we built it out into a full-fledged suite meant to really help you every time you've got a touch point that you need to reach out to the client for. So, in the SafeSend suite, we've got SafeSend Returns, we've got SafeSend Signatures, SafeSend Organizers, and SafeSend Extensions. And we'll talk a little bit about all of those today. Now, SafeSend is a company. It's been around since 2008. SafeSend Returns, which is the focus of our conversation today, that hit the market back in 2014. So it's a product that's been around for 7 tax seasons, and that's really given us an opportunity to not just have the product available to you, but build it out and make it a full-fledged solution for your office. Now, with the SafeSend suite, our ultimate goal is to have one utility that you can use to manage all those touch points with your clients. So here's a nice graphic of the tax engagement lifecycle, the various ways that the various SafeSend products help you today. You can see there's where returns comes in with the delivery of the tax return. On the front end, you've got signatures to collect things like engagement letters or one-off items like power of attorney forms or S-Corp elections. SafeSend Organizers, we're going to take the organizer from your tax package, convert it to a fillable PDF that your client can then complete online. And when they return it to you, they also have the avenue of uploading their source documents. And then SafeSend Exchange, this is our answer to the client portal. So this is something that you can use to transfer files back and forth, throughout the year. It doesn't have to be associated with the tax return. So for those of you doing, payroll and bookkeeping and those kind of things, SafeSend Exchange is an easy way to exchange files. Now, SafeSend Extensions rounds out the SafeSend suite, and just like the name entails, it's an easy way to get extensions into your client's hands. They can review. If they need to sign it, they can sign the extensions. But with extensions, you can also have your client make payments. So if the client has a balance coming due, they can click on a link in Extensions, be taken to the taxing authority's website where they can make that payment. Now, what I like to call the hidden feature of SafeSend Extensions is the ability to include estimated tax payments. So with SafeSend Extensions, not only can I send that extension to the client, but I can also include those quarterly estimates that are going to come due while I'm waiting for additional information to complete that return that's on extension. So I can include first, second, and third quarter estimates. SafeSend Extensions will then automate reminders to that client so they can go ahead and make those payments. And then, of course, SafeSend Returns comes in once that return's done. Let's say I sent that return out. I've got 2 estimated payments left. I can include those 2 estimate vouchers with the return, and then SafeSend Returns will pick up where SafeSend Extensions is left off. Now, let's take a quick moment and take a look at the softwares that you're using. So SafeSend Returns today, it works with CCH Access, ProSystem FX, GoSystem, UltraTax, and Lacerte. So let's take a quick poll and see what tax softwares we have represented by our audience. Gail, can you fire that up?
Yes. Okay, for our second polling question, which tax software does your firm currently use? So if you use one of those first 4, Access, ProSystem FX, GoSystem, TaxRS, or UltraTax, please check the box for whichever one you use. Or if you use something else, choose other, and we would love it if you would also list in the Ask a Question box what other tax software you use. So we'll let this stay up here for a few seconds, and let me just ask you, Mike, are you going to be talking about what the plans are for the future about hooking up with other tax software companies at SafeSend?
Sure. I'll talk about what I know.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
That question always comes up. That's why I'm asking you now.
Yep. No question about that whatsoever. So yeah. So just let me know when we're ready to move forward.
Yeah, it looks like we've got everybody in. We may get some other answers as to what the other will be, but I think everyone has answered the question.
All right, fantastic. So yeah, to Gail's point, today SafeSend Returns has a strategic partnership with Thomson Reuters that allows us to have direct integration into the UltraTax and Ghost System platforms, where right from those products you can transfer the file from the tax product directly into SafeSend Returns. We would love to have similar relationships with the other tax products we support. As of right now, we don't have those, but we're certainly something that is always something we're looking in to accomplish. We would love to have access directly from, say, the print function in ProFX or Lacert, where it can go right into SafeSend Returns. As of today, it's not there, but when we take a look at the product, I'll show you how you can just pull in a return without that direct integration as well. Now, as we continue this conversation, one of the big issues that firms face when it comes to really a digital environment is internal embracing of automation. Excuse me. So here we've got a nice little comic. Before SafeSend, people talked about, okay, well, it's going to take us, we'll migrate. We're going to do slowly, and it'll take us 5, 10, maybe 15 years to kind of migrate from a paper office to a paperless office, or from where we are today to digital copies for the clients and whatnot. And then, of course, COVID-19 came along and really changed everything. Offices were closed. You couldn't get in there. You had to figure out how your staff could work remotely. You had to figure out how you could service your clients without them actually being able to stop into the office, and really forced a lot of firms to embrace automation. Now, of course, once clients embraced automation, we had clients that found out that they actually liked it, even though they didn't think they would before. And so that's kind of where we're at today. Now, when we talk about digital transformation, that's what we're really talking about is migrating those paper processes over to a digital process. And, it's nothing new. It's something that firms did a lot, 10, 15, 20 years ago, when internally we were looking to get rid of paper and digitize our files because, we could double our office space if we eliminated all the file cabinets. And now we're kind of doing that on the client end of things. But of course, when we're doing that, we want to make sure that we have good client collaboration so that we're still maintaining that high level of customer service that you've always been able to offer when clients were stopping in the office. So really, we're at the intersection here of automation between the staff and the client experience, and that's really what we want to focus on. So today's presentation is going to talk about simple ways to overcome those hurdles that we have with clients, how you can empower your staff so they can help your clients if clients do call, or really just serve your clients even better than they already have been. And of course, we want to do this in a way that services the clients well and reduces areas that clients commonly face when it comes to doing things in a remote environment. So our webcast today, we're really going to look at the SafeSend solutions and how they encourage things like staff retention, how we can, eliminate, we'll say, the mundane work and let the clients work on those things that really, feel of value to them and provide value to your firm. And also how that can help when, let's say somebody is out of the office and somebody's got to pick up extra work, or you simply can't get the staff that you want to have for tax season because it's hard to get staff everywhere, right? We still have that staffing shortage. There was the Great Resignation, and embracing automation is a good way of working around that. So here, when we talk about embracing automation, the benefits of embracing automation can be standardizing internal processes, shrinking the amount of time it takes on manual tasks. If you can automate the placement of signing boxes on your 8879s, then that can be a nice time saver for you. Also, digital remote client experience that can be easily, saves a lot of time. You don't have clients coming into the office. When clients come into the office, they always add a little time, even, most clients do anyway, when they stop in the office for something. And then, of course, one of our goals is to be able to do more with less staff, not necessarily to reduce your staff, but if you don't have as many staff as you would like to have, we want to be able to make the staff that you have be able to handle more functions than just, say, delivering a tax return. And then, of course, that empowers your staff as well. They feel more valued. They're doing things that are more valuable to the firm, and they're doing the less mundane tasks. So we already talked about empowering staff. I'll just skip past that here. Now on the client side, and this is of course a big one of our goals with the SafeSend suite is to reduce the frustrations that the clients have with the remote experience. It's not just good enough to dump a return someplace and then just assume the client's going to be able to handle it from there. How many of you have had a solution and then, you do things to basically train your clients on how to use those solutions? Now that we're in the post-pandemic area, clients have embraced the remote and they like that convenience of not driving through the blizzard in, February or early March to get to your office to go ahead and pick up the return or have their tax appointment. It's really nice to drop things off or submit them online and then just get an email and review and sign that return and, potentially look at it together online. So here we kind of have a curve of where technology comes in, right? And so SafeSend Returns, it's a product that's been in the market for 7 years now. You can kind of see this is the typical curve that we see with tax and accounting technology. So you kind of start off with those innovators, those people who buy something as soon as it hits the market, and then you kind of get into the early adopters. And if you notice, there's a gap here, and that's where products that first hit the market end up making or breaking themselves, right? You get to the point where, you either have to take that leap forward to make the product that much better, or if you can't make that leap, the product simply kind of dissolves and goes away. I would say with SafeSend Returns, we're probably here right about that line where you go from the green to the blue. It's a product that's been in the marketplace. You can see we've got a lot of different modules now within the system that really help you throughout the entire tax engagement life cycle. And we are at a position where we are seeing very rapid growth in the adoption of that product. So let's take a quick question here. Gail, would you mind firing up this third question about tax return packages?
Sure. So what percent of the tax return packages did your firm send digitally to clients this filing season? 0 to 25%, 26 to 50%, 51 to 75%, 76% or more, or choose E if you did not send any packages digitally. So go ahead and answer that, and we'll see how the answers come in. Just another few seconds on this. Okay, so, and it's looking like about a third, a little over a third are in the 0 to 25% range, and then a nice spread over the rest of the options.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gail. I appreciate that. So yeah, like Gail said, you've got a little over a third that are doing less than 25%, and then you've had basically 2/3 that are doing somewhere between 25 to 50%. Or sorry, 50% to 75 and 75% or more. And, those numbers, they make sense. That's pretty much what we see in general. But, there's a lot of reasons for that. To give you some example, I know with SafeSend Returns this past year, with over 800,000 1040 sent through the system, over 35% of those actually went to clients over age of 65. So a lot of times firms will say, well, I've got an older client base. They're not going to be able to adopt technology, or they're not comfortable with it. And at least with SafeSend and the SafeSend suite, we're able to, we'll say, overcome some of those hurdles with our client simplification and an easy process on the client's end. Now, one of the reasons it can be easy on the client's end is our goal, which is really automating or being there for every touch point with the client. So both internal and external client facing, and in the ways the module helps, it's helpful because SafeSend Returns is the platform everything was built on. So everything else has the same look and feel. So if your client signs something with signatures, they can sign the tax return. If they complete the organizer, they can review their tax return. If they look at the extension, or if they look at the return, they can do their extension. So very similar look and feel for your clients. Now here at SafeSend, when we think about the tax return, we really think about it in 3 big steps. So, step 1, gathering the information for your client. That's where things like SafeSend signatures and SafeSend organizers comes in handy. Step 2, being the actual return preparation step. That's where, step one also can include SafeSend Exchange, but step two is really where your tax product comes in. And then step three is really what we like to call automating that last mile, getting that return assembled, delivered, and the client e-signing it. Now, when we talk about the last mile, when you get that return ready and send it out to the client, this is the way firms typically break down a tax return. You're going to have the transmittal letter and filing instructions. Then you got the tax return. You got the documents your client needs to sign, payments if they have payments. For entities like 1041, 1120S, and 1065, you get your K1 packages. And then, of course, there's your invoice because you want to get paid. So with SafeSend Returns in the SafeSend suite, we're going to automate the assembly and delivery process for you, gather those signatures, excuse me, help the client distribute the K1s for their payments. We'll remind them about their payments. And then, of course, you can include the invoice so you can get paid as well. I'm going to go ahead and skip over this polling question, Gail. And then we're going to talk about empowering your staff, especially in today's, employment climate, where if you do have staff, it's very hard to get new staff. And the staff that you have, you want to make sure that you retain, because the competition is reaching out, trying to get them to jump ship and come over and work for them because they're so hungry for staff. And so one of the ways you can help, we'll say drive employee satisfaction is by giving them value, by really driving the value of their role. And one of the ways you can drive that value is by eliminating mundane work on things like, taking a PDF and splitting it apart. Now, another thing you can do is working from home, right? When COVID closed offices, people had to figure out how they could work from home. So, this is one of those things that's still in the market today. We hear about it all the time on the news. Tesla just required everybody to come back in the office. And, they said, if you don't come back to the office, you're fired. But, this is one of those things. Basically, for 2 years, people had to figure out how to be able to work from home. And so you've got clients that, or not clients, but employees that are going to want to be able to work from home. Some are going to want to be able to not work from home, and other people will want to work, that hybrid environment where they're spending some time at home or spending some time in the office. Now, this is just a nice article here from Accounting News Today. It's in that slide deck, so you can see that. And then here's some nice statistics on where accountants fall when it comes into working remote versus working in the office. Now, the interesting thing is, a future in the office. How will your employees work 1 year from now? Well, industries in general, 42% of the respondents of the survey said that they would be working in the office. For the accounting industry, it was 53%. But that actually goes along with where you're working, right? So when we ask accountants where you're working now, while in general industries, 40% of people are still working from home, when it comes to accountants, actually over a third of them are working in the office all the time. And you can see here's mostly at home and mostly, in the office, but you can see where accountants really like to be in the office. Now here you can see it's just falling more in line. And then, here's client level or employee level of working at home. So we've talked about the Great Resignation. Obviously that's really shrunk the market of available employees, and that's where empowering your employees comes in. Just really, making them known that they're valued, giving them roles that make them feel valued within the company, and automating things that make them feel like they're just doing busy work. So what do we do, right? One, to address these issues, we can embrace automation. Like I said, it eliminates the mundane. It really helps your employees feel valued because they're doing things that they see are of more value to the firm. Here we go. It all talks about what it is. Now, one of the things I did mention before, automation allows you to do more with fewer. We're not talking about having less staff. What we're talking about is just the ability to your staff to do other things or more valuable things, or simply service more clients in the same amount of time. So what's the third issue that we face when we come to, embracing automation and really having a digital item? It's frustration on the client side, right? One of the things clients really like is being able to talk to you and, having that personal contact. And in a digital world, that can be difficult to feel. And so we want to make sure that the client's experiences are as great as we can make them to be. And that's the reason why we want to find out, okay, what is it that the clients are struggling with? How can we address those issues? So here, this is just talking about what's a digital native, right? So there's a digital native, which is, like college kids. They've grown up. They've always had a phone in their hand. They've always, gotten their news online. But now you have the new digital native. So this is somebody who basically has kind of gone from, like pre-COVID, everything was paper. And then during COVID, everything went digital. And now they like digital. And we refer to those people as a new digital native. And, when it comes to the client, on that, their responsibilities of the return, you can see here, when we send that return out, they're going to review their tax return, approve it, sign it, make their payments for, balance due or estimates for the entities. They can do their K-1 distribution. Then, of course, they're going to be able to pay you, which, of course, that's the most important thing for all of us. Now, when we send that return out, with SafeSend returns, we talked about automation, and this is a nice example of what we're going to do with the SafeSend returns automation. You're going to pull the return in. We're going to separate it out into all these different categories for you. Now, what typically happens with other solutions is before you can send it out to the client, you have to manually break it up into two pieces. So you separate your signing process from the tax return. The client goes into one system to access the return. They go into another system to complete their signing. That means the client has to have two different experiences. Sometimes with some products, it means that the client has to have two different usernames and passwords. Of course, that can be a level of frustration for the client. So with SafeSend returns, the client has one system that they can do everything with. Now, portals, for a lot of firms, portals are really just about storage and access for the client. It's not about the delivery process. And, like here, again, it mentions password fatigue. Usernames and passwords are probably one of the biggest frustrations in a digital world, right? Think about it. Every time you do something, you have a new username and password, and then you got to think about it. And that really reduces the security, because if I've got 50 usernames and passwords that I need to remember, what do I do? Well, as a good client, I use the same password for everything, right? And then if a hacker gets that, they've got that username and password from whatever it is that I hacked, and now they have access to everything that I use. So we've got the client circle of frustration here, right? So this is just a nice example. Basically, you send the return out to the client. They try to get in. They can't remember their password, so they contact the firm. You guys go through the process of trying to reset that password for the client. And then, of course, the client just says, okay, well, thanks for sending it to me. By the way, I want to send this off to my banker or my financial planner. Can you send me a copy of the return that doesn't have a username and password? And, eventually your clients or your staff just say, okay, we've just got to deal with this and move on. So, sorry, there was a message that came through I had to look at. But, you just end up being one of those things where your clients are frustrated, your staff's frustrated, and because of that, password, or just plain PDFs get attached to email and sent out. And of course, you don't want to do that for security purposes. Now, here's some of the challenges of the electronic delivery. So these are different methods we see, attaching things to an email. If it's an encrypted file, usernames and passwords on those, clients can struggle with those. Clients don't necessarily see the instructions you put in there. And of course, when it comes to signing, they've got to print those out and then get it back to your office. And not so much this year, but last year, getting things back to the office through the mail was quite a time-consuming process. Oftentimes, you were waiting 2 or 3 months before 8879s would show back up. And, that made portals more attractive because the client can download the item, sign it, and then upload it back to the system. But of course, that's not an e-sign solution, and it does require the client have the ability to either take a picture or scan something in. And a lot of clients these days don't have a scanner. So when they try to take a picture, a lot of times, they take that blurry picture and send it back to you. And then, of course, an e-sign solution, and that's the reason why we see so many portals and e-sign solutions paired together, but it's still two solutions that are separate, but you're just getting the job done with them. So the downside with that is your e-sign solution allows the client to sign the return, but they don't necessarily have access, or they only have access, say, for a short period of time before that expires. Now, it's nice because the client can sign it really fast, but sometimes clients have difficulty signing with the systems, or you have to spend a lot of time, adding boxes and setting up that document for the client to sign. Gail, let's go ahead and launch polling question number 5. So when it comes to e-signing, what solutions are you guys using today when it comes to your clients signing their returns?
Okay, so the question is, which e-sign solution do you use? The options are AssureSign, Adobe Sign, DocuSign, Write Signatures, UltraTax CS e-signature, something other than one of these, or none if you don't use an electronic solution for e-signing. If you do choose F, other, we'd appreciate it if you would share with us in the Ask a Question box what other option you use. So we'll give you a few seconds to answer these. Pick the one that you use most frequently. Sometimes people might use more than one, although I'm not sure about that. But anyway, choose the one you're most comfortable with or familiar with. And then also please share, if you choose other, what your other option is. Okay, and just a few more seconds on this. Okay, I think we have the answers in.
All right, fantastic. So thank you very much, Gail. I appreciate that. And that's really interesting. About just under a third of you are using DocuSign today to sign. But it makes sense. DocuSign is an e-sign solution that's been out there forever, and it does a good job. Right? There's no question about that. And then we're going to skip question 6 here, Gail, and we'll come right here. So e-sign. It does have its hurdles. Even DocuSign, as good as it is, it does have, some areas that can be difficult. One common questions: are clients going to be able to complete the e-sign? After COVID, most clients can. You pretty much know who can and can't. So you've got that, information today, where a few years ago you wouldn't have had that. Now, one of the best practices that we recommend, even with our system, is when you're going to do digital delivery of the e-sign documents to your clients, to send them a heads-up email. Right. So you just send them a quick little email. Hey, I'm about to deliver your signature documents. Be on the lookout for that email. It's just one of those things that's helpful, because otherwise, clients may miss that email, or, it may go into their spam folder and they need to look for that. So always good to have that heads up, so the client's aware that email is coming soon. And it also introduces potential problems with your process, right? You had your paper process, it was down, you worked like a well-oiled machine, and now you've got to mix in this digital delivery process. And, with those new hurdles and those new processes come new processing steps that you've got to overcome. Now here we've got a very similar circle of frustration to what we saw with the client. So when you're sending it out, you've got an e-sign circle of frustration here. And I'll just kind of pull them up here so that you can see them all. All right, it doesn't seem to be. All right, there we go. All right. But yeah, the e-sign circle of frustration, very similar to what your client saw. You send out the 8879, the client tries to get in. They go through the KBA questions for the 1040 clients. The KBA can be a problematic area for clients. They don't like the questions that are asked. Questions go back so far they can't remember the answers. They fail KBA. They have to call you to say, hey, I failed KBA. You have to reprocess the return, send it out to the client. Just some of the ways that e-signing a return can be frustrating for both your staff and your clients as well. So let's take a quick question here. When it comes to clients being frustrated with the e-signing process, Gail, let's pull up this poll and find out, what is the biggest problem that many of our attendees today are coming across when clients are trying to digitally sign those documents.
Okay. All right. This is our next polling question. What is your biggest frustration with e-sign on the 8879s? A, didn't know the spouse's email address. B, KBA questions were too difficult. C, it was confusing for the clients. D, all of the above, or E, because you don't do it. Or you don't do it electronically. So go ahead and choose your answer here. I love that we're getting a lot of D.
Yeah, it totally makes sense to see so many D's on there. But yeah, I mean, these are here because we know that they're fairly common errors, or not errors, but really common, we'll say, problem points that many firms experience when they're trying to get a return to a client to sign via a digital process.
Right. Okay, I think we have everybody in here.
All right, fantastic. And like Gail said, most of you are experiencing all those questions. Clients are struggling with KBA. It's confusing on the clients. You've got clients that share email addresses because they got married before they had email. So when they created it up, it's jimandpam@gmail.com. And then, of course, everything else that can come along with it. So let's take a quick look here. The tax process, client collaboration, really, it can be kind of a disparate mess, right? You've got your portals, you've got your e-sign solution, you've got clients that are getting things over email, you've got clients that are stopping in. So you can really just have a lot of different systems that are in play, and that means that your staff has to know, 6 different ways to do the same task. So really with SafeSend, our goal is to give you one touch point. So you got one solution really to handle a lot of different things. So we're going to jump out of the PowerPoint here, take a quick look at SafeSend and the SafeSend suite. And if you notice, we've got the ability to send engagement letters, do your organizers, and do your tax returns. So Gail, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And all right, let's see here. Okay. So you should be seeing a screen right now that shows SafeSend returns. So this is going to be your starting point with SafeSend returns. Now, like I mentioned earlier, with UltraTax, we have the ability, or UltraTax and Go system, you have the ability to send the return right from your tax product over here. For products like CCH Access, ProFX, and Lacert, you're just going to click on the button for the appropriate product, pull in that PDF. Now, what's nice about this is all you have to do is print that PDF from your tax product exactly as your tax product is going to produce that. And then SafeSend Returns is going to automate the reorganization of the return. We're going to automate the preparation of your signing documents, so there's nothing that you have to do there. Our goal is really to make this process of delivering returns to the client as simple as possible. Now, when we looked at the responses earlier, it looked like about 1/3 of the people in attendance today were either using UltraTax or CCH. So I'm going to grab a return here from CCH just because I know it applies to about 1/3 of our audience. And this is how you're going to send the return out. But at this point, no matter what tax product you're using that works with SafeSend returns, everything's going to be the same. Once the return's in the system, you're going to process it the same way to get it off to your client. Now, I've sent the return before, so I'm getting a warning here. I'll just click OK through that. And this is my starting point. So when I first come into SafeSend returns, I have this nice overview of the return. And one of the things that we talked about was the frustrations that come up quite often with e-signing of married returns. So I've got a married return here so you can see what SafeSend returns does with married clients. Now, to send this return to the client, the only thing I have to do is over here on the right, I need to make sure I have an email address present for my taxpayer and or my spouse. So this is married. I've got a taxpayers area here for my taxpayer of the return. Down here, I have an area for the spouse. So if they have different emails and I have them, I can go ahead and enter the taxpayer and spouse email here. If the emails, let's say the taxpayer and spouse share an email, I can use the same email here. But what's nice as well, if I only have the email address for one of the 2 signers, so, I work with the spouse, I've never met the taxpayer, I can go ahead and just email that return to the person I have the contact information for. When that first signer of a married couple goes to sign the return, you'll get to see how that first signer can update the email address for the spouse. So if there's no email, they'll be required to enter it. If you do put in the email, that first signer gets to confirm that that spouse email is what you entered in the system. Now, before I hit send and send this off, I'm going to click here on the group tab because this is what our automation has done for you. So we talked about embracing automation. One of the things that we're doing with SafeSend returns is trying to make this return delivery process as automatic for you as we can. So when the return comes in, we look at the return from the client's perspective. What are these items? What does the client need to do with that? And that's where these categories come from. So you can see here, we've broken out the transmittal letters and filing instructions. Here's the tax return. If the client wants a copy of the return to say take it to the banker, they can pull down just the tax return and give those tax return pages off to that third party, so they don't have to flip through those instructions to get to these tax forms they're looking for. Here's the authorization pages. So we're going to go through that return. We're going to pull out those federal and state signing documents, and there's nothing you need to do with these. We're adding the signing boxes, right? These are forms. Everybody signs them in the same spot. That allows us to automate the signature placement for these. So these come into the system. We prepare them. They're ready to go out to the client for signing. Now down here, we've got those payment vouchers. So if the client's got estimated payments or balance due vouchers, we're going to separate those. We read the content of these forms, and we automate to your reminders to your clients based on that information. So, here I've got an Alabama third quarter estimate. We know that's due on September 15th. We're going to send an email to your client, a few days before that say, hey, you've got X number of days to make the payment. And then we're going to list the authorities that they have those payments coming due from. Now, finally, if an invoice is included with the return, we're going to automatically have that separated, but you might not be using your tax product to generate the invoice. So if the invoice is coming from a practice management product or something like QuickBooks, you can just generate that invoice. And then here on the Invoices tab, I can hit Replace Invoice, pull in that PDF and swap out the invoice that came out. Or if there's no invoice, simply add an invoice to go out to the client with this return. Now, what's nice about SafeSend returns, let's say you've got a link on your website where the client can click and make their payment. By entering the amount that the client owes here, we can have that link put into SafeSend returns. And then when your client clicks on your invoice, they'll get a Pay Now button that allows them to go ahead and make their payment right from within our system. So they just hit Pay Now and it goes out to your payment system where the client can pay. Now, the other tabs that I skipped across, it's the same information that's here on the Group tab. It's just a different viewing angle. So if I hit e-file authorizations, I want to see what's on this 8879. That's where this e-file tab comes in. Now I can actually see what's on that 8879. And here you can see there's those signature boxes that have been added for me already. Now, to have the client sign this, all I have to do is click on Finish, Deliver to Client. Here I can toggle between taxpayer and spouse, so I can specify who I want it to go to first. And then I can confirm that email address is correct, especially first year where I've keyed it in. I want to make sure that that's correct. I'll hit Send. And now this is off to the client. And if I jump over here to my email, we can take a look at what the client goes through with SafeSend returns. Now, the first thing is right here in the subject line is your client's name. For your clients that are sharing an email address, if they're looking in there, the taxpayer sees an email with their name right in the subject line. The spouse sees an email with their name right in the subject line. So very easy for taxpayer and spouse to know which email is for who. The branding looks like it came from your firm. Right? If we send an email from SafeSend, your client's not going to have any clue what that is. They're not going to click on the email. So we brand it so it looks like it came directly from you. On your client side, really all they have to do is click here on this link. This will take them into a screen that looks like a tax return. So the client's going to click here to get started. And then they're going to go through our multi-factor authentication process. Instead of usernames and passwords, which clients forget and get frustrated with, they're just going to put in the last four of their social security number, hit continue, and then request an access code. Now for me, I have the access code coming back as an email. We do have a text option where your client can get it as a text message instead. I'll simply copy and paste my access code, and then we can go into the return and actually review it and sign it like the client would. Now here in the upper left, this is where the client sees that amount that they really care about. I call a client, your tax return's done. First thing they say to me is, what do I owe? Well, when they come into SafeSend returns, that's what they see. Here at the top of the screen, they've got a progress bar. Lets them see exactly what the steps in this return are that they need to complete. I'll click here to begin. And this takes me into a greeting area. You can customize this, put in little notes for the clients like, pay your IRA or fund your IRA by April 15th. And when they hit continue, it brings them in here to where they can complete the review and signing of the return. Here, this is that invoice. You can see there's my Pay Now button that allows the client to make their payment. I'll hit continue, and then here's the return. So I'm going to scroll through my instructions here. I'll hit continue. This will jump me to the tax return. I can go ahead and scroll through the tax return. Now, as the client reviews it, they may have questions about something on the tax return. When they do, if they call you, up here under contact person, we have a feature called share screen. Allows the client to share what they're seeing on their screen with you so you can see their screen in real time. Very easy to answer clients' questions. This is also a feature that a lot of firms use to do on-screen reviews with their clients, even though the clients are out of state. I'll hit continue, and this comes into where I can sign. Now here you can see I've got three options. Clients will always see the first two. E-sign is what you'd think. Click on e-sign, go through KBA and sign the return. Manual sign, if they don't want to go through e-signing, you can download their signing package, sign it and upload it. And then the last option here is signer delegation. Allows the client to review the return, but then forward it off to the person who should sign it. So if I'm sending this off to a controller of a business, they can complete their review, but then forward it off to the president or owner of the business for final signing. I'll click here on e-sign, and this is really a strength of SafeSend returns. When the client comes in here to e-sign, they're going to put in their date of birth, but we're going to capture that so it's a one-time entry for them. They'll mark that they reviewed the return, and then for married clients, they'll see their spouse information. They can confirm, adjust, or if there's no email, enter the email address for their spouse. We'll capture what they do for the spouse, and next year you'll have that email for the spouse. We hit continue, and this is going to launch the KBA process. Now, like I mentioned, KBA is a strength of SafeSend returns. We boast a 97% success rate with clients getting through our system. Clients simply read the question, mark the best answer, and hit continue. They have to get 3 of 5 questions correct to pass. If they fail the first set of 5 questions, though, they can get up to 2 additional sets of 5 questions, all within IRS compliance. Once they've succeeded with those questions, we bring them in here to where they can sign. Now, to give you some perspective, 97% plus of the clients that go through SafeSend returns pass the KBA process. For the small percentage of clients that do fail, we simply convert them over to the e-sign or the manual signing process so they can still sign that return. Now here I'll click on start and it will walk me through signing. I'll hit signature, pulls the name off the return, adds that signature, or I can hit draw if I'm doing this on a phone or a tablet. Very simple to go ahead and sign my name. I'll just hit next and it's going to walk me through signing the rest of the return. Once I've signed everything, that next button becomes a finish button. And when I hit continue, I get one last chance to confirm my spouse's information. If this was a single return, this would go be a signing confirmation screen and you would get an email saying that that return had been signed. Now here this client's got some payments, so you can see here are my payment options. If I have it set up for direct withdrawal, like with the CCH client, for CCH we can identify that direct withdrawal setup. So instead of giving your client an option that says pay, it says do not pay, scheduled for automatic withdrawal. We can still remind the client, but they can't come in here and make their payment. If that's not set up, the client will get the option here that says pay, and then I can either pay online or hit download voucher and mail in my check. Now, pay online is just a link that takes you to the taxing authorities page where you can make the payment, and that works for federal in all states. I'll hit continue. This brings me to those quarterly estimates. So we're going to go ahead and send this client the reminders as these payments come due, but especially for the 3rd and 4th quarter, those are those vouchers that often you need to adjust. So we do have an easy way for you to upload your updated vouchers so the client can see that amount that you want them to pay now and not the amount that went out with the original return. When I hit done, it takes the client back to the summary. Client has access to this for the next 7 years, and they get back to this either through the link in one of the emails that we've sent them, because all the emails we send them will include that link, or they can have it saved as a favorite in their browser. Or if a client calls you and asks for a copy of the return, you can do that right here in the reports area. Just click under action, hit resend access link, and that will go ahead and send the email back off to the client where they can go ahead and get back into that return. All right, waiting for my page here. Now, once it reloads here in the returns area, this is where you can see what the status of the returns that you sent out are. So this married return, it's partially signed. You'll see that it says partially signed. If the return hasn't been signed, it will say awaiting e-sign, and we will automate reminders to your clients for that. And then here you can see as well, once it's signed, it'll say e-signed. And under the action column, we do have a number of features that come in handy. There's the resending of the link, client view that lets you view the return just like the client would, recalling a return when a client calls and says, hey, I forgot something, you need to update the return. You can pull it back, fix it, send it back out to the client. Here's where you can upload the estimates. Then we also have client tracking, lets you see exactly what's gone on with the return since you sent it out. You can see if the client's gone through the KBA process, if they passed, if they failed. Now that really takes care of looking at SafeSend returns. The other modules are launched right here from within it. So if I wanted to send something out, I'd click on signatures, load it in and send it out. Organizers, I'd pull in that PDF of the organizer, send it out the same way I sent the return. And the same's true with the extensions. So Gail, let's go ahead and launch our final polling question here.
Okay, our last question is, are you interested in learning more about the SafeSend suite? And your options are yes, no, I just want the CPE credit and no contact, or I'm not the right person. So please choose one of those. And while you're doing that, we have a few questions that have come in if we'd like to take a look at these.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Let me take a look here. Yeah, nice number of questions. And remember, folks, if I don't get to your question, I'll be sending emails with answers later on. So somebody asked, can you print directly from CCH Access to SafeSend? Not directly, not today. Today for CCH Access and ProSystem FX and Lacert, you just print the return to a PDF, and then in SafeSend returns, you drag and drop that PDF in. Okay, somebody asked, I have SafeSend Exchange. Is there a lower level version of SafeSend I am using to receive and transmit info from clients? So yeah, SafeSend Exchange is our answer to the client portal. Today it's a separate product, just an easy way to send files back and forth. What we looked at today is the SafeSend Suite, which is a different product line. Somebody asked, what functionality or features does SafeSend have to assist in document gathering? Like I just mentioned from the previous question, we have SafeSend Exchange. SafeSend Exchange will be getting rolled into the SafeSend Suite later this fall. So you'll have that simple ability to request documents or clients to upload documents to you. Also with SafeSend Organizers, clients have the ability to upload documents right from within there. So like if clients downloaded their W-2, they can upload the W-2. If they took a picture and, they've got access to that, pulling that up, they can load it in there. There's a variety of formats, image, PDF files and whatnot. Clients can upload, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets as well. Okay, somebody said a problem that they have in their office is they get the digital signature, they e-file the return, but it gets rejected and they have to mail in the return. Clients are upset because they have to come in and provide a wet signature on the mail-in return. How are others dealing with this problem? Good question. So, with SafeSend returns, if you have a return that the client needs to mail in, like a locality or let's just say it's a state return that, hits one of those exceptions to being able to be e-filed. With SafeSend returns, we have a paper file tab, and you can just simply print that return the client needs to mail. They can still e-sign that, federal 8879, but then for that return that they need to mail in, they'll get a prompt to basically say, hey, you need to download this. The client can download and print that out, and then they can just go ahead and mail it, in. Somebody asked, how does this handle married filing separate returns? Married filing separate returns will be treated as two separate returns, just like it would in most of the tax products. There was a good question. Somebody asked if there's a way to increase the font size that the client sees when they're completing the organizer. In SafeSend organizers, the font size will be whatever font size you printed it. So, if you print that organizer and your software has the ability to increase the font size, then you would see that in SafeSend organizers. But SafeSend organizers is just taking that, the organizer that you produce in your tax software and converting it to a fillable PDF. And then somebody asked, can you send payroll forms through the system? I did talk to somebody a while back who was using SafeSend signatures to deliver payroll forms that needed to be signed. So, with SafeSend signatures, you can load anything that you want into the system and go ahead and send that out. All right. And that looks like it was all the questions. If there's any other questions, feel free to add those. All right. Well, Gail, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for attending today. Anything else we need to do on your end?
I just want to also thank everyone. I want to thank you, Mike, for an excellent presentation. And thank you to SafeSend for making this event possible and for enabling us to offer a free CPE credit to each attendee. As a reminder, you will receive a link to your CPE certificate later today in your email if you met the requirements for CPE. If you have any questions about CPE, please contact me directly, G. Perry, G-P-E-R-R-Y, at cpapracticeadvisor.com. Also, if others are watching this event with you at the same computer and they require CPE credit, you can email me their names and email addresses, and we'll take care of that. Again, that's G. Perry, G-P-E-R-R-Y, at cpapracticeadvisor.com. As soon as we finish here, you will be presented with a post-event survey evaluation form on your screen. We would love it if you would take just a minute to answer a handful of questions about us and how we did so that we can continue to improve our webinar series. And I think that's all I've got. Thank you, everyone. And our audio.
Gail?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but before we drop off, I see a couple people have asked in the questions, how do I download the slides? So can we cover that real quick to make sure that people who want the slides can grab those?
Yeah, if you didn't get them earlier, they should be in the event resources section on your screen. If you don't see them there, go ahead and refresh your screen, and then you should see them there. And finally, if you don't see them at all, just email me and I'll get them to you. So we'll go ahead and let's leave this up for like another 30 seconds in case anyone is refreshing their screen and wants to download those slides. So while we do that, how's the weather where you are, Mike?
It's hot. How about yourself? So I'm located in Southeast Michigan. That's where our headquarters at SafeSend are. And it's 98 today, which if you know anything about the Midwest, 98 is not a temperature we're accustomed to. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty much the same down here. I'm just a little south of you in Indianapolis. And
oh, yeah, you're not far.
Yep, we're high 90s also. But for me, I love it. So it can't be too
good.
hot. Yeah. Oh, good. All right. So we hope all the rest of you have a great day. And our audio is going to end now. Thank you for attending.